Some of you probably saw that title and thought, well, it's about time. Some of you probably thought, no, not the best thing in the universe. And some of you probably thought, this guy isn't dead. And we'll talk about that later. But for now, let's focus on the question at hand. Is the Brony fandom dying? Now, let me start off by stating plainly, I have given myself some distance from the show and community, so this is coming from the perspective of an outsider looking in who was once an insider. First enjoying the show in late 2012, the peak of my Bronyhood was 2013 to 2014, when I was an aspiring entertainer just starting off this YouTube channel, with all the excitement and energy that a fresh high school graduate could exude. My Little Pony was still fairly new at this time, with only 3 seasons for us to enjoy, a first movie for us all to get reluctantly hyped about, and a new desire to turn all ponies into princesses. For those of us who were around early enough, to see all that drama firsthand was exciting. This being the first thing I ever really geeked out over, all that drama was new to me, and the small scale of the fans at the time made it feel cozy and intimate. But it seemed full of talented artists, writers, musicians, and the like. After a while, however, more and more people were making their way into creating content, and it started to feel like things were stagnating, like the fandom was starting to follow the same patterns over and over again, and new and truly unique projects were just the same things over and over, only slightly varying in content. Seriously, how many episode reviews do we need? There's too many, there's one many, and then there's too many. This wasn't entirely true, but those feelings, coupled with some personal issues that were weighing on me, drove me to step away from the Brony community, and even the show for a bit. In this time, I saw some changes. Familiar pony terms were disappearing from my view of the internet, and the entire phenomenon steadily slipped away from my life. I went to Google and tried typing in some names and phrases to see how fast they pop up with autocomplete. And I'm a little astounded with how long it took. I had to type Rainbow D before I could see any pony results. Even if I do an image search for rainbow, I mostly only get actual rainbows. Sure, a dash is thrown in a couple places, but I remember a time when searching rainbow could render one of 2 polarizing emotions from people. These signs told me that Bronydom was decaying, and soon the whole thing would fall into history as an obscure fad like pet rocks and moon shoes. I decided to check up on the old Skype chats I was in, do a few sweeps around image boards and Equestria Daily, and what I found was a little surprising to say the least. The fandom, at least from my view, is as alive as ever, but in a different way. Big names that I knew had either moved on from ponies, simply stopped creating content, or fell into antiquity as new names emerged. At the same time, the lay fan base had exploded, on a small scale. Let me explain. More people seem to casually watch the show, or even only fan-made content, and they are chatting up a small thunderstorm of pony. It isn't anywhere near the cacophony I experienced when I was more involved, when pony spam was abundant, leading to websites having to make new rules, either relegating pony discussion to a proverbial smoking section, or outright banning users from discussing it. But it's there, and it seems to be staying. The best way to describe this contrast might be to compare it to the Big Bang Theory. When the Big Bang happened, the universe was very hot and energetic. Over time, matter and energy settled, compounding into more stable structures, eventually allowing life to exist. Likewise, the Brony fandom seems to have settled, and found its own corner of the internet to just be itself. Sort of like how people didn't know whether to categorize Avatar as a Western cartoon or an anime, but it was too badass and awesome to go unnoticed, so it just became its own thing. Now, people still groan and roll their eyes at grown men obsessing over little girl toys. Mainstream websites like Reddit and Facebook occasionally show cringy pictures of pony tattoos or toys completely overtaking shelves in people's homes. But it isn't as hot-headed or mean-spirited as comments in the past, just simple disregard. For the most part, people have just let bronies do their thing in peace, as long as someone doesn't unnecessarily antagonize someone else. There are still conventions with attendance growing year after year, according to BronyCon statistics, and it seems like there's an endless supply of smaller cons popping up all over the world. So is the Brony fandom dying? I don't think so. Some things have changed, but the fandom is still alive and well. According to SearchEngineLand.com, Google's autocomplete searches usually show more popular searches, but Google has the power to make less popular searches show up first if they deem them more relevant to news today. And being a Brony just isn't as big an issue as it used to be. The topic of watching My Little Pony was sorta controversial at the time, but nowadays it's more like a guilty pleasure rather than something you had to anxiously introduce to your parents on prom night. As for whether I'm still a part of the community, it's debatable. On one hand, I'm still involved in a few projects, such as the Royal Canterlot Symphonic Metal Orchestra with the L Train. We just released a new album, so check it out, link in the description. But I want to start making videos that aren't all about ponies. One of the reasons I stopped making things for this channel was, honestly, I was burnt out on Pony. I hope that doesn't stay the case, but if I want this channel to continue to grow, I feel it's necessary to plant it in a bigger pot. So there are going to be some new things coming from here, some experiments, throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. Right now I'm planning on broadening my attention to focus on animation in general, from old cartoons to anime and everything in between. And I hope you guys will still want to watch. I'm still blown away at how much this channel has grown over the years. And you don't know how encouraging it was to see what has become of it when I felt uncreative or uninspired. I feel like it would be a disservice to you guys if I were to just vanish without explanation. Hell, at the time I wrote this, I crossed 12,000 subscribers. I don't want to say I accomplished that much and stopped suddenly. So, until next time, and there will be a next time, this is Flame Lionheart, signing off.